Hello, Internet. My name is Daniel O'Brien, and welcome to another episode of Obsessive Pop Culture Disorder, a show about things that my brain shouts at me while I'm trying to be an adult. Today, we're going to be talking about death in movies, or really any medium, is something that is generally supposed to be taken seriously. Nobody in the audience was hooting with laughter when Forrest Gump's mom died in that one movie. At least no one in my theater. We were still recovering from the loss of Bubba, and then Jenny, Lieutenant Dan's entire family, John Lennon, I guess. Man, a lot of people die in that movie. There are a lot of laughs, too, just not at those specific parts, because we're not supposed to laugh when a character dies in an otherwise dramatic scenario. We're supposed to be sad, or scared, or reflecting on our own life choices. But then we see wacky shit like this. Broken Arrow is the answer to the question, who between John Travolta and Christian Slater has the more formidable forehead, and which is capable of nuclear extortion? The answer, of course, is Travolta, and after 2 hours of precious villainy, he meets his doom on the pointed end of an atomic bomb. There's a lot to unpack here. For instance, there's a clear buildup. Travolta sees the missile coming at him, which is apparently either traveling in a super slow motion, or that train is way longer than any of us realized, because he has enough time to stand, lose his footing, stand again, face the bomb, and roll his shoulders forward in the universal come-at-me-bro posture of a man lurking in a Hooters parking lot. He looks at that missile like their old adversaries like, "You again, eh? It's been a long time." He's clearly staring that missile down with a level of respect that you can tell he thinks is mutual. And the missile is just like, missile face. I am a missile. Your power posture is not intimidating to me because instead of a heart or a brain, I just have more missile parts. Also, the missile roars at him right as it impacts because apparently nuclear bombs are made of dinosaurs. And he definitely pooped when that thing connected. That's a poop noise he's making. Executive Decision is a movie about a tough, no-nonsense special ops commander named Commander Steven Seagal and his quest to destroy a group of terrorists who have hijacked a 747. The only way on board the plane is to attempt to secretly dock with it mid-flight using a state-of-the-art stealth aircraft and its retractable person hose, which connects to the other side of the big airliner and allows Commander Seagal's team to crawl stealthily inside. Am I having a stroke? There's no way that sentence makes any sense. Anyway, things fall apart when it's Seagal's time to use the thing. That was supposed to be a noble sacrifice. That was meant to make us, the audience, feel a grim sense of pride for Stevie Siegs because he died so that Kurt Russell might live. But of course, we don't feel any of that because the very next thing we see is Steven Seagal shooting clumsily out into space like someone threw an Evel Knievel doll out onto the interstate. They couldn't even have him gracefully off into nowhere. He had to bump his crap all over the plane fins or whatever. We're not gonna make it. You are. And then bounce. Ow, plane. Maybe hit some birds on the way down, landed in a bear trap. We don't know. Hey, it's Howie Long again. Except in Firestorm, Howie Long plays a heroic firefighter who parachutes into the middle of a firestorm, which was started by the villainous William Forsythe and his criminal henchmen in a vain attempt to cover their tracks, because there is no covering your tracks when Howie Long is on the case. William Forsythe discovers this to his woe, when he and Howie have a climactic fight scene beneath a capsized boat as the firestorms around them. Well, actually, first what happens is Howie throws an axe into William's chest, and he falls off the boat to what should be his death. At some point, while underwater, he took the axe out and swam up to float fight Howie Long under the boat. He shotgun blasts a hole in the boat, which is bad because it means when the fire comes, it'll suck all the oxygen out of the boat. Firestorm sucks. Howie realizes he needs to A, get rid of William Forsythe, and B, plug that boat. And wouldn't it be convenient if we could do a two birds, one stone thing here? That is 100% insane forever. Howie Long determinedly power swimmed while focusing on William Forsythe's butt. I really thought Howie was like, here it comes, boom, Howie Long butt punch. But instead he was like, boom, head plug. And then William's head roasts down into a tiny, ridiculous raisin. And he dies, again, pooping all the way. And it truly was a firestorm. Fun fact, Firestorm has been uploaded to YouTube in its entirety and nobody has done a thing about it. Funner fact, at about an hour and 23 minutes in, the female protagonist takes out a metal box and inside there's two live, hideous-looking baby birds.
I'll be damned.
I didn't watch the whole movie in the preparation of this video. I skipped around. So I have no idea what the setup to that is. And I so love it without context. He's like, the firestorm passed. And she's like, and that's not all. Look, a box of birds for our day. And he's like, tight.
Don't you just love them?
Well, I guess I could learn too.
Poseidon is about a fabulous Titanic-sized cruise ship that gets hit by a wave and flips upside down, and everyone left inside loses their goddamn minds. Case in point, Our heroes are trying to climb across an elevator shaft 100 feet above a pile of jagged metal wreckage. The elevator shaft is on fire, and the elevator itself is dangling precariously above them, its brakes moments from giving way and sending the car down to crush them all into luxurious dust. Josh Lucas and Kurt Russell are sharing gritty hero roles, trying to pull the cowardly but Dreyfussly endearing Richard Dreyfuss and the kind-hearted busboy Freddy Rodriguez out of the shaft. Freddy insists that Dreyfuss go first because he's just that swell of a guy.
You go first. Come on. You go first.
Then the beam they're standing on collapses, leaving Freddy dangling from one immaculately tailored Dreyfuss leg, while Josh Lucas does the teeth-gritting best to yank them both to safety. Then out of nowhere, nowhere, he orders Richard Dreyfuss to kick Freddy Rodriguez loose to save himself.
Take him off. Take him off.
And he does it! Freddy, pleading for his life to the man he just nobly allowed to climb up ahead of him, hurtles screaming down the shaft, gets impaled on a spike, one of those elevator boat spikes, you know, and then an elevator lands on top of him. Then everything explodes. That's 4 different Schwarzenegger deaths unloaded on a single minimum wage worker who up to this point in the film hasn't done anything to anyone. And for the rest of the movie, we follow and root for the characters who murdered him. The Rock is one of the most paradoxical films of all time because it is one of the only good movies Michael Bay has ever made, and it set the wheels in motion that eventually turned Nicolas Cage into the haunting punchline he is today. If Nicolas Cage were Batman, The Rock is his parents getting shot to death in an alley. In the movie, a band of rogue Marines have taken control of Alcatraz and are threatening to launch a devastating chemical weapon into San Francisco unless Sean Connery can drag Nicolas Cage through enough action sequences to kill everyone on the island. And because you have to kick a baby bird out of the nest if it's ever going to learn how to fly, Nick Cage is left to deal with Tony Todd, the Candyman himself, all on his own. And he does so with the sweatiest joke setup ever written.
Do you like the Elton John song Rocket Man?
I don't like soft ass shit.
Oh, you know. Well, I only bring it up because, it's you. You're the Rocket Man.
How did that even occur to Nick Cage as an option? That is a complicated series of cause and effect. Plus, the only way he could have telegraphed that blow anymore is if he said in straightforward, uncomplicated language, hey, I'm going to shoot this missile directly into your chest, which will more than likely result in your death. I mean, the rocket won't kill you. It'll just drop you off on some errant spike, an ocean prison spike, you know? And that will kill you. But anyway, you'll be dead soon. Oh, that'll teach you. Next time you'll be more open-minded, broadening your musical horizons. Also, just as a sidebar, what if Candyman said yes? What if Cage said, do you know the song Rocket Man by Elton John? And Candyman was just like, oh my god, definitely in my top 5. Such a huge Elton John fan. Saw him with Billy Joel at the Garden, worth every penny. Bitch is back? More like bitch never left, if you ask me, right? Boy, who knew you and I had this in common? Cage would have to just be like, yeah, who knew? Anyway, that's you. Die now. You're the Rocket Man. No. In the recent film adaptation of the musical sensation Les Miserables, Russell Crowe plays Javert, a police inspector so consumed by the absolute definitions of right and wrong that when faced with the paradox of Jean Valjean, a good man who is also a criminal, he can't cope with the realization that everything he believed in his entire life was wrong. So, after betraying everything he stood for by letting Jean Valjean go, he climbs on a bridge overlooking a river, sings monologues about the tragedy of his life, and jumps. It's a crazy emotional scene in a movie already loaded with crazy emotional scenes, and it's guaranteed to get everyone watching a little misty in the eyes. The music swells to a crescendo as the heartbreaking Javert plunges to his death beneath the stars of Paris. What the f***? What was the point of that? He just landed right on his hip. His pelvis exploded. Were they worried we wouldn't understand Javert was dead? He just fell like 100 feet into a rampaging current. He's super dead. We didn't need the additional help of that cartoon splat sound effect of his skeleton shattering. I should have aimed for one eye. For a movie so full of accidental comedy, not one legitimate attempt at a joke in The Phantom Menace actually manages to land. But, for an example of that first thing, let's take a look at the entirely too long and thoroughly pointless pod racing scene. It's pretty much just plucky little Anakin racing his tiny heart out in an effort to defeat the reigning champion Sebulba, a thunderous douchebag alien that comes from an entire race of aliens that walk on their hands for absolutely no f***ing reason whatsoever. I mean, he still uses his feet as hands, so what's the point? Why wouldn't they just have evolved to have regular hands and feet? It doesn't make any sense. Phantom goddamn Menace. Anyway, the pod race sequence introduces us to a barrage of colorful alien racers, including this guy. That's a little alien who makes that noise. You might recognize him better as the guy who dies screaming in the tunnel. He's minding his own business, doesn't see a rock coming until it's too late, goes and then eats it because pod racing is deadly. Well, it's his fault for getting involved in such a deadly sport. And it doesn't matter. I'm not sure I even remember his name.
It's Max Terrell.
Oh, Max Terrell, or whatever. Fine.
His whole family's here today to cheer him on. We understand Mrs. Terrell just got out of the hospital, so we wish her and her family the best of luck today.
Holy shit, there's his entire family. His entire family was at that pod race. His newly widowed wife, who came straight here from the hospital, had to sit there, clutching her fatherless children, and watch as Anakin came yelping out of his pod to a chorus of throaty cheers, while her husband lay fused to the smoldering wreckage that was their livelihood, shitting himself uncontrollably, now that no nervous system exists to keep his alien bowels clenched. Man, your life can be over in an instant. Just one rat, and then you're done. Your whole family watching, while some kid yippies right over your charred, lifeless husk of a poop-filled corpse to victory in a race that was rigged because of Jedi magic. Have fun raising 3 children on this corrupt desert slave planet, Mrs. Terrell. You did nothing to deserve this. Join us next month when our topic will be, I don't know, George Lucas stone-facedly telling you that happiness doesn't exist and death is the reward. Oh no, it's about Power Rangers. It's gonna be a Power Rangers thing instead of that. Cool. Bye. In the recent film adaptation of the musical sensation Les Miserables, Russell Crowe plays Javert, a police inspector so concerned. I didn't know I was going to do that. In the recent film adaptation of the musical sensation Les Miserables, Russell Crowe. In the recent film adaptation of the musical sensation Les Miserables, Russell Crowe. I gotta move on. I'm sorry.